What's going on, big baller shot callers? We're back for some more March Madness talk. We're down to the Elite Eight. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Dwayne and Brandon. What's going on, gentlemen? Good to see you guys again.
Good to
Well,
see you
get
too, Ken.
burning, get burning, and get burning.
Good
Yes.
morning,
Well, I'll save it for the Houston game later. But me and Dwayne had an interesting thing on Houston, but we'll save it for the recap on that one. But wow, the Sweet 16 did not. The Sweet 16 did not disappoint. Like every round has not disappointed. Two number one seeds fall, North Carolina and Houston, but two number one seeds advanced. Purdue and UConn both dominated their games, especially UConn. They won by 30, but Purdue looked really good in the second half in their game. So wow, and we also had some very close games. You know, Tennessee Creighton game was very good, like we predicted. That went down to the wire. You know, so it was a good Sweet 16, but also the dark horse, number 11, North Carolina State, is the highest remaining seed in the tournament in the Elite Eight. Like their run is continuing, and the three of us last show, we all predicted that. So good on us, gentlemen. We all thought North Carolina State would advance, and they did. But I have a breakdown of by conference of what teams are in the Elite Eight by conference. So ACC is leading the charge, like we talked about. They have three teams in the Elite Eight: Duke, North Carolina State, Clemson. Big Ten's got two: Illinois and Purdue. SEC has two: Alabama and Tennessee. Alabama kind of being the surprise. And then the Big East has got one: UConn, the defending champs. They're still alive. So yeah, ACC is by far having the best tournament with three teams remaining in the Elite Eight. There's another interesting stat before we go into some March Madness talk, but I was curious about when was the last time all three schools in the Raleigh area, you know, NC State, North Carolina, and Duke all made the Sweet 16 together besides this year, 2024. But the last time was in 2015, 9 years ago, where all three Raleigh schools made it into the Sweet 16, which I think that's interesting. And we know that North Carolina is big time basketball country. So that's pretty cool. All right, gentlemen, let's get into some coaching talk. Well, there's one more stat I want to say. It was North Carolina State's first time making the Elite Eight since 1986. So NC State has not been to the Elite Eight in about almost 40 years. I found that out yesterday. So good on North Carolina State for breaking that drought. My goodness, that's a long time. Yeah. But let's get into some coaching talk. Interesting subject here because he's a well-known coach at Kentucky. You know, Coach Calipari. Before that, he coached at Memphis and he coached D Rose. You know, they went to the championship game, but he had an interesting thing. I remember Dwayne and Brandon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember he had a comment about free throw shooting for Memphis like 15 years ago when they made it. He said free throw shooting wouldn't hurt him because they're blowing teams out all year long. But then in the championship game against Kansas, he needed the free throw shooting. They couldn't make the free throws. That's what I remember. That statement by him kind of came back to bite him in the butt like 15 years ago. You know, when D Rose was like a freshman or sophomore. I love D Rose. It's just unfortunate what happened to him in the NBA with his injuries, but I love D Rose, man. But I've never been crazy about him. I'm not against talent. I don't mind the freshman diaper dandies like Dick Vitale says. I'm never going to be against talent, but I don't like his system of these one and dones, and I think that's what's hurting him. Just my opinion from my perspective. But I'm not against talent, so I'm not against the players. But I just never been crazy about him. I'm more about player development in a 4-year period. But the biggest thing about him, the takeaway about him is not just about that. It's more about they've only won one tournament game in the last 5 or 6, March Madness appearances. So what's your guys' thoughts on that, Jim? I'll start with you, Brandon. What's your thought on this whole Calipari thing? Do you think he should be fired? Do you think he should stay? A lot of people are saying he should be fired because he hasn't had no success in the last several years, and he's still there for some reason. That's like the biggest talk because a lot of other coaches would have already been let go by now, and he's not. So what do you think?
I'm not a fan of him either, but it's kind of like when you win a national championship, you've kind of locked in your stay. It's a lot easier to. Um, the thing with Calipari's teams is it is the issue. It's with the one and done. So you bring in all these guys that are really just there so that they can go to the NBA. So you don't have players that have chemistry that have been playing together 2 or 3 years, like the teams that they're playing in round one. A lot of these guys, I feel like maybe they don't even care that they're in March Madness because they're just thinking about their next stop in the NBA right now. So, but I don't think he's going to be fired, and I don't think he should either. The thing is, when you get such like so much talent, like what he brings in, you always have a chance to win.
Yes,
But the teams that he's
absolutely.
won is the Anthony Davis team, DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, like those guys that went on to have incredible NBA careers. When you bring in players like that, which I don't, maybe he's not bringing those players in this season. I will see, but yeah, they're just they're going to get beat by these teams that are seniors, juniors that have been playing, and they're not scared of them. So.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way on that. What do you got, Dwayne?
No, I don't think he should get fired at all. I mean, imagine the NCAA without John Calipari.
Yeah,
But wherever he goes, I mean, this man is straight a goals mine, and he's a recruiting genius. He knows what he's doing. But now, are they resulting in, and like Brandon alluded to, I mean, like, are they resulting in the championships? Maybe not. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he knows how to coach. I mean, and if if Kentucky lets him go, I'm not saying that there ain't good potentials out of there, but he's going to go somewhere, develop that program into a powerhouse and a well-known program, and I mean, and have success, no matter where he goes. So I mean, I just don't see outside the one and dones, that's just his thing. You know what I'm saying? He's pretty much one of the only coaches out there that does that. And eventually, like a lot of NFL coaches who need to get on the bandwagon and kind of use analytics to kind of understand the flow of the game, it's going to catch up to him eventually, and he's going to probably encourage players to come back, depending on who's coming in and things like that, so they can have another chance at it. So let him make that mistake. But of course, like any other major program, especially a blue blood program, the fans are going to get antsy, and alumni and boosters are going to get antsy, and so they're probably calling for his head a little bit. But at the end of the day, who you got coming in better? But no matter where he goes, he's going to have success. I just can't imagine college basketball without him unless he chooses to step down on his own. But he knows what he's doing. And it also works in his favor that the transfer portal and
yeah, good
NIL
point.
are in
Yeah,
full swing. So he can not only recruit outside the transfer portal, he can recruit inside the transfer portal, and probably kick in with NIL, and the benefits to that by coming to Kentucky, and what a waste for them there. So, I mean, I it's just his way, it's just his style. But I will give Calipari this. He's always been an advocate for the kids. He's
yeah.
always been an
I
advocate
won't
for the
argue
kids.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I won't
yeah,
argue that.
I remember he went on a rant. He was just like, why don't he's like, yeah, he because I think he was in favor of players getting paid. He's like, you can't give a player $500, a stipend a month or whatever the case may be, and expect them to live off of that or whatever the case may be. The university should give them like 2,000 alone just for plane tickets to travel to and from home and things like that. So he was advocating for the player
Yeah,
to make it worth their while, not only to come to the school, but to play for the program. He's like, yeah, he believes players should get paid. You know what I'm saying? He's like, why not? But as fans, we believe it's devastating the game. But like I said, eventually Calipari, either he's going to switch it up, or he'll move on, or he'll stick to his guns and see how it plays out. But obviously we haven't seen that have much success.
I think he was advocating that to make it legal for what he was already doing.
Right. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? He like,
Hey, yeah, I'm doing this over
yeah,
the
he was,
table.
wasn't he?
Yeah, he probably was. That's funny, man. He probably was. He's like, now I won't get in trouble. I won't have no recruiting violation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's funny.
Marcus Camby knows about that.
Yeah, yeah, he sure
He
was.
was buying him other things though.
That's funny. That's why I'm glad we got the three of us. We all got interesting comments. It makes it fun, man. Oh my God. That was
Absolutely.
hilarious. I agree though with you guys. He probably won't get fired. I'm not lobbying for a man's head either, because it's not like I'm a college basketball coach, so but the reason why I bring it up before we get on to some of our recaps is because my neighbor Rick, who Monty met, when he came out here last summer, he's an old school basketball guy, who grew up in Texas, I think in Big Springs, and he's in his mid 60s, but he's becoming a good friend of mine, him and his wife Connie, and he brought it up because he said if it was Shaka Smart, the dude would have been fired because he got let go at Texas for not doing much at Texas, and that's why he brought it up. Because he's like, Shaka Smart's doing good things at Marquette, even though they lost yesterday, but they did get to Sweet 16. But he thinks it's interesting why Calipari is still around, and then a guy like Shaka Smart will probably be let go if something like this happens. So he was talking about that.
I got the difference with that is Texas and Kentucky are on
Two different levels.
Things. So yeah, two different levels. Kentucky is established and Texas is trying to find their way, and they're in a win now mode. So if you're not winning now with Texas, then they're looking to move on a lot quicker than Kentucky. Kentucky's got their titles with Calipari. They got their guy. Texas is trying to find their footing and win right now. So that's
very good point.
And if you don't please them Texas alumni up there, bro, a 5-year deal will become a 6-month to 1-year deal real quick.
Shaka Smart made some tournaments with Texas, but he was having an issue. He kind of finally broke that curse, which I was happy for him. But Shaka Smart he was starting to get in this unfortunate, this pattern. I think the past 4 or 5 March Madnesses until this year, he was leaving in the first or second round. He just wasn't getting far. But then this year, he finally broke that curse to get to the Sweet 16, which I was happy for him. And of course, we all know what he did with VCU, taking a mid-major to the Final Four, which really put him on the map. So I like Shaka Smart. I think he's a good coach. I like Shaka Smart better than Calipari, honestly. But you guys are both right. Calipari's not going anywhere. He's been around college basketball forever. He's not going anywhere. There's this interesting conversations with him since he does the ones and dones as one of the very few guys who does it. So but great talking point, gentlemen. Let's move on to one of them too.
So I said Patino's one of them too. You know, he's definitely a one and done guy. So and look at him.
Yep. And he just took a coaching job at St. John's, almost got them into the dance. He got close. They were on the bubble. Right. They were close.
Right.
They might be there next year. We'll see. But he's definitely improved them. There's no doubt about that in 1 year.
Yep.
They just fell a little short. But let's move on to some Sweet 16 recaps. We both talked about this first game because the first half was playing during our show last week. Clemson, Arizona. Clemson held on to win 77-72. Arizona did make the second half run that we talked about, but Clemson did hold on to win that game. Got some stats, but they had 3 players in double digits. PJ Hall, 17 points. C. Hunter, 18 points. And can't say his name. Scheifelen, 14 points. I know Monty was talking about a 3-headed monster with Clemson, and I think that's the 3-headed monster. They have 3 guys that can always score, and I'm assuming those are those 3 guys. They shot lights out from the field, 29 out of 59, 49.2%. 8 out of 25 from three-pointers, 32%. 11 out of 16 from the free throw line, which isn't great, but it's not horrible, 68%. Problem with Arizona, this is the one intriguing stat with Arizona. I know Brandon mentioned this in our first half coverage. They were horrible from the three-point line. They kept on shooting them. They kept on missing them. 5 out of 28 from the three-point line. 17.9% from the game. That was their dagger. I don't know why they kept on shooting threes. They had trying to find a way to score different ways. Their guy Love that we were talking about did score 13 points. He had a little bit better of a second half. He was quiet in the first half, but that was, and they didn't shoot very well from the free throw line either. 17 out of 25, 68%. So both teams were around 68% from the free throw line. But the big dagger was the 3-point line for Arizona. So that's my takeaway from the game. What do you got in this game, Dwayne?
About three things. Okay. Clemson. What helped them is that they found a third scorer.
Yes.
That was a big thing. The other thing that helped them is that they shut down Caleb Love. He didn't get hot as we wanted to. If Caleb Love would have been over 20 points, kind of like RJ Davis, I believe they would have had a chance to win. And then, PJ Hall, man. I mean, he almost seemed unstoppable, man. He was the difference maker, and so he's been really sporadic, but he was very dominant, and they showed it. Him and Shefflin really put it together, and rebounding and crashing the boards and taking it to the rim. So those are the three things that really just solidified Clemson's place. You shut down Caleb Love, you make him go quiet. Their outside shooting was pretty much non-existent outside of one player maybe, and then PJ Hall was dominant in his play. So credit to Clemson. I really want to see Arizona push through. I really thought a comeback was coming, man, but I mean Caleb Love is their difference maker, man, and you saw his face that really pretty much told you the kind of game he had, which was similar to RJ's. It's just like, golly, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Well, they did make the run. They just didn't have enough. They did get it down to like 2-3 points. They made a push, but
yeah, I mean, it almost seemed like they couldn't miss.
Clemson
it almost seemed like Clemson couldn't miss. They were locked in. So credit to them.
Yep. Yeah, credit to Clemson. What do you got on this game, Brandon?
Yeah. I there's not a whole lot more to add. Shout out to Joe Girard III from Syracuse, Glens Falls, New York.
Yes.
So,
good point.
The man. Yeah, he hit a logo three. Arizona did have a 1-point lead for a possession, but Clemson held on. They kept playing the game that gave them that lead, that big lead early, and yeah, they just stuck to it, shut down Caleb Love, and that's how they won.
Yeah, they definitely focused on Caleb Love. It was a good game plan, really good game plan. All right, the next game, number 1 UConn dominates number 5 seed San Diego State. That was a rematch of last year's championship game. UConn wins 82-52. It was a 9-point game at halftime, so San Diego State was in the game at halftime. It was 40-31 at halftime, but UConn was put on the route, in the second half. But like Dwayne said, if San Diego State would have kept it within 8 or 9 points, 5 minutes to go in the game, it could have been interesting like it was in the championship game last year. But San Diego State just does not have enough on offense. They're a very good defensive team, but offensively they're challenged a little bit. And UConn's got scores everywhere, man. They could score. They have multiple people who could score. Klingon, their big man, only had 8 points, believe it or not. I thought that was an interesting stat, but they still had 3
I was disappointed in him in that stat line. I was just like, huh?
Yeah, I was surprised because I thought he would have a lot more. But yeah, he only scored 8, but he didn't need it this game. I think he'll be okay.
No, he didn't.
Forward. But he did not need it. Spencer had 18 points. Tristan Newton, our boy from El Paso, me and Monty always talk about, the UTEP transfer, had 17 points, their floor general, and the fabulous freshman Castle had 16 points. So they had those guys, and Diarra had 10. So they still had 4 guys in double figures. And San Diego State only had 2 guys in double figures. Leedy, who played last year in the championship game, came back. He had 18 points. He's been their main guy, and Parrish had 10. But yeah, field goal percentages, yeah, there was a vast difference. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, San Diego State just couldn't shoot. They only shot 36% for the game, and UConn shot 46%. They were horrible from the 3-point line, 5 out of 22, and UConn was 10 out of 26. So yeah, UConn dominated every stat in that freaking game. That's why there was a blowout. 30 points, 51 rebounds to 30. That's another crazy stat. I'm like, oh my god. just way too big, way too strong for them. What do you got in this game, Dwayne?
No, I mean it's really not much to talk about. Like I said, if San Diego State was able to keep it close within, that margin, I think they would have had a chance, to really clamp down and give UConn some problems, but unfortunately they didn't. And I told you the reason why in the last show. I said they don't have scoring. That is their downfall. They don't have a lot of scores that can score from there. They don't have much of a second score nor a third score. So I mean, and that was always going to be their the biggest thing. They D up pretty decently and they rebound the ball very well. But outside of that, I mean, UConn's a wrecking crew, man. So I mean, and it showed. So they just didn't have enough that second half to really, make that push. UConn looked at them jokers like, man, let's put these jokers away and let's go home. And that's exactly what they did.
Absolutely. They put it away early the second half, very early. They're up big. Like, so only 9 points halftime, but within the first 5 minutes, they were up pretty big, and they never looked back. Well, what do you got, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, UConn they're one of the best teams at making halftime adjustments. And even with a lead, they put their foot on their San Diego State's neck. San Diego State's just not good enough this year. They lost their top scorers from last year. And UConn's just too good for them. It's really just that. There's not a lot to say about this one.
No. We predicted it might be a blowout, so it was. Here's the next game. I know you guys are upset about this one. I'll let you guys cover this. I'll let you guys cover it first, but Alabama pulls off the upset against North Carolina. Alabama's a 4 seed. Alabama was the number 1 seed. It was 89-87. I'll go last on this, but I'll start with you, Brandon. What was your takeaway on this game, since you guys are both NC fans?
I'm still pretty bitter about this one, man. The second half, I don't understand why they went away from some of the things that working. Like we said, Cormac Ryan needs to have a good game, and he had a great first half with 4 or 5 threes, I believe. The second half, he might have taken 2 shots. He was not really involved. The offense, the thing that I really noticed, I'll let Dwayne talk more about RJ Davis on this one, but man, the way that he was shooting, he looked just completely lost, and like he forgot how to shoot. Because I'm looking at some of these shots he's taking, and not only is he just cold, but he's just forcing it. He's overthinking. You can tell by the way he's shooting that he's overthinking. His feet's not planted right. They're too far apart when he's lifting, and he looks just uncomfortable. Like he's overthinking it, and he's just trying to force these shots to be made. This isn't the time or the game to be trying to practice right now. Baycott's just getting forced into these double teams, and he's not looking to pass out. And all the other supporting casts outside those two, is everyone's scared to take a shot. It's you got an open look, but you're passing it for another just as open look, who's passing out to another just as open look. Ingram, Cormac Ryan. I can't think of the guy off the bench, number 3. I can't think of his name right now, but he was doing the same thing the second half. Everyone just looked scared to shoot because RJ's just not shooting good. So disappointing. Alabama outplayed them, and they stuck in there, and they got the win. So props to them. But this is pretty disappointing to see how Carolina really flopped in this one.
Got you. What do you got, Dwayne?
Brandon, I'm in complete agreement. And one of the things, I always told people, as a Carolina fan, I said, you let RJ go over 20 or 20 plus, Carolina's going to win that game, because that means he's hot. That didn't happen. RJ was just cold. I mean, and if you saw how they came out at halftime, they came out flat. Like they had the lead, and it started to dwindle down. Alabama started to chip. And I'm as they're chipping, I'm like, oh no, we're not about to do this today. but because Carolina went cold from the field. I mean, if you look at RJ Davis stats, he was 4 from 20 from field goal range. He was 0 from 9 from 3-point range. I mean, he couldn't do much, and so they were dependent on those other players. Props to Harrison Ingram. He did what they could, but they started, like he said, they started clamping down. They started double teaming. And if I was afraid that if Alabama kept it close, those 3-point shooters would come into play and start taking the lead. And that's exactly what happened. And so, I mean, I really don't know what happened. I mean, I know RJ takes blame for it, but he didn't play well that game. That's a game that they needed him. He needed to at least be 20 plus for them to keep up with Alabama. And uh, it was just one of those games that dumbfounded me. I didn't see the Carolina in the first half that I saw in the first half in the second half at all. And like like Brandon said, they start to look just scared. Like, I mean, I'm like, man, take it to the hole. If you ain't gonna shoot, take it to the hole, draw the foul, get to the line. That's where our success is, but I just, man, it just was hard. Their bench really didn't show up much either. Withers was starting to get in foul trouble. Washington really didn't do much. Trimble did what he could to, clamp down the guards on the perimeter. Wojcik gave some decent minutes, and kind of being somewhat of a floor general for the meantime, giving out rest, but it was just very hard. But props to Alabama, man. They pretty much put it to us. And then Nelson, out of all, and Grant Nelson just decided to show up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and you look at him throughout the tournament, he really hasn't really done much scoring. But since really their outside shooting was okay and wasn't having their success that he usually has, he decided to step up and be an All-American on that one night. Just against Carolina Tar Heels nowhere, and decided to show up and show out with 24 points. And so, and 12 rebounds on top of that, so props to him, props to the Alabama Crimson Tide. They did their thing and they moving on.
Yeah.
And another thing, Elliot Cordeau, you're a 16% 3-point shooter and you make your first two. You're done. You are.
Let it go.
Stop.
Let it go. He should have let it go.
Let it go. Dribble in. You're giving you enough space to take 2 steps in a little mid-range. Take that, but you're done. And Grant Nelson, his biggest impact all game was double teaming and taking Baycott's blind side. And Baycott just looked surprised that he's been doing it all game. Well, like, pass out. He wasn't. Usually he'll do that, but I don't know what it was with him.
I really don't either.
And the missed dunk.
That's always bad. That's always embarrassing.
Is it me, or did that missed dunk kind of set the tone for like, we got y'all butts? Y'all ain't.
Was that in the first half or second half?
Second half.
It just kind of let them know how this game was going to go. If Baycott starts missing dunks, it further lets you know how that game was going to go.
Yeah, that just kind of shows you the storyline. Like, they just couldn't get anything right in the second half, I guess.
They couldn't.
It was with like 4 minutes left. And a lot of people want to blame, I've seen online, a lot of people blaming Jalen Withers. I mean, he did. It's not his fault, but he definitely sealed the loss.
No. I mean, like I said, he just didn't put on the same performance he did the last game.
Well,
against State, against Michigan State. I mean, he was very critical in that comeback, but I mean, like I said, their whole bench really, the other 4 players off their bench that they usually use didn't really do much, so.
Yeah, I got stats for that game. So to your guys' point, North Carolina's up 54-46 at halftime, and then they get outscored 43-33 in the second half to lose by 2, 89-87. So that goes to your guys' points where the second half was horrible. They got away from the things that were working. Nelson had 24 points, 12 rebounds, like Dwayne alluded to. Sears had 18 points, and I think, like I said during our pregame before we started recording the show, I think he broke some kind of scoring record for Alabama basketball. So yeah, but he's always been their main guy.
Yeah.
But this
In all
Nelson guy,
actuality, I think we did fairly good against Sears.
yeah, he did. Yeah, you guys shut him
They
down, but
just
this
needed to
Nelson
step up
kid
because
went off.
Sears,
Yeah.
Sears on any given night, he averages almost 25 points a game.
Yeah. You guys shut him down.
He's putting up 28 and 30 points.
Yeah.
And we locked him down to under 20 points. We actually did pretty decent.
No, this Nelson guy killed you guys, 24 points.
He
and
did.
There was also two other players with 19 points. Estrada had 19 points and Griffin had 19 points. So they had 4 guys with almost 20 points or more. So they had some pretty balanced scoring all the way around.
Right. And if you look back then and all their other stats and all their other games, Estrada's not a 19-point guy.
Nope.
The other guys ain't that many point guys. They just showed up for this game because it mattered to them most, and that's the bottom line.
And I don't know how many Elite
first, second,
Alabama,
third, and fourth score.
Yeah. Alabama's getting better in basketball, but they haven't made too many Elite Eights, maybe 1 or 2 in the past. They've been getting better to get to the Sweet 16 a lot more often recently, but they're not a powerhouse in basketball like they are in football. But they are one of the more higher scoring teams in the country. I know that. They can put up points. I do know that. And it usually comes from Sears, like you guys were saying. They are very high scoring, but so is North Carolina. It was a track meet, in the first half. But yeah, it's disappointing. Alabama just outshot them 32 out of 67, 47.8%. Carolina was only 30 out of 78, 38.5%. So there's a 10%, difference in shooting. North Carolina 12 out of 32 from 3-point line, 37.5%. Alabama's 11 out of 26, 42.3. Carolina just got outplayed like you guys said. We'll move on to the next game though. This game was good, like we predicted. Illinois, Iowa State. Illinois does a squeaker, like we all thought would be. Illinois wins the game 72-69, 3 seed versus a 2 seed. Shannon for Illinois went off like we thought he would. We all talked about he was our leading scorer, 29 points, and Hawkins added 12. So this game came down to the wire, but we all said Illinois would pull. I think we all had Illinois winning. I know me and Dwayne did. I can't remember what you said, Brandon. Did you have Iowa State winning this one or Illinois?
Yeah, I took Iowa State. Yeah.
It was close. So we knew this game could lean either way, but Illinois, pulled it out. But Shannon was their main guy, man. Oh my God, Shannon's just the man. That guy's fast. Like I said, that guy could run court to court, man. So, it's interesting stats. All our stats are pretty even. 24 out of 57 for Illinois, 42%. 23 out of 58 for Iowa State, 39.7%. 3 points, Illinois 9 out of 29, 31%. Iowa State was much more effective from that. They shot less, but they were much more effective. 6 out of 13 for 46%. Free throws, gosh. Illinois was horrible from free throw line. They could have won by more. They're only 15 out of 29 from the free throw line, 51.7%. And Iowa State was 17 out of 21, 81%. So that helped keep them in the game, in my opinion. Illinois could have won by a lot more if they hit more of their free throws. That kept Iowa State close. They got Illinois got to clean that up moving forward. They cannot go 15 out of 29 from the free throw line moving forward, but they still held on to win this game. What do you got on this game, Dwayne?
Just real brief. I mean, for one, I'm a little bit shocked that Shannon scored that many points against Iowa State as they're well known for their defense. I could expect a 20-point, 21-point, but 29, almost 30 points for Shannon. But then again, you got to understand, they really have sporadic scoring outside of Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need a third scorer when they move on to the next round. I think Damascus is going to have to really step up in a big way.
But he's inconsistent. He can.
But he really didn't do much outside of some assists and things like that. And of course Hawkins did what he could. But I knew Iowa was going to give him some problems. They've been. They could match up with anybody defensively, but like I said, Shannon is a legit scoring threat, guaranteed to put up 20 plus points a night. but they're against UConn moving forward. They're going to need that third
Yeah,
score against them.
yeah, I agree.
So
Domas can do it, but he needs to be more consistent. I've seen Illinois play before. He can score, but he's not an everyday scorer. He needs to step up, big time. What do you got in this game, Brandon?
Yeah, Illinois. I feel like I've overlooked them. They actually got some scores. They can actually play some pretty good defense too. Big thing for them. They took a big lead, and Iowa State just couldn't climb back from it. So they did a lot of good jobs on defense with cutting off the passing lane and just getting easy baskets, moving the ball well, and that was a big key for Illinois. They're a pretty good team. Yeah, I was surprised by what I saw.
I've seen them play before because, like I said, I'm a Big Ten guy, so I knew they could lock up a defense. I know about Domas. Of course, Shannon's their main guy all year long. We know this. And I like Hawkins because he's kind of a hybrid big man. He can shoot threes, but he also take it to the hole and score inside. He's kind of an NBA prospect, because he's an athletic big man, But Shannon's definitely their main guy, like lottery pick, NBA first round, maybe one of the first couple top 10 in the draft or something. That Shannon kid is freaking lights out, man. Like I said, I just like his speed, man. I think he's got to be one of the fastest guys in college basketball, man. He's fast.
Yeah,
The way he runs, he can really push that ball. If he gets ahead of steam, man, you ain't stopping him, man. He's either going to get an and one or he's going to the free throw line. So, yeah, he's quick. Next game, the big one, the dark horse, North Carolina State upsets number 2 Marquette 67-58. North Carolina State had a big lead at halftime, 13 points. I believe it was 37-24 at halftime. They just never really looked back. Marquette did challenge them in the second half a little bit. They got down to 5 points a couple of times with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. So they were fighting. They were trying to do everything they could. But NC State just always had the answer. They got off to that big lead, and like I said, they just never looked back. So they're a number 11 seed, in the Elite Eight. So good on them. Like I said in the opening of the show, first time since 1986 getting to the Elite Eight. So that's a huge credit to them. I'm sure that's a big storyline. Surprisingly, the big man from North Carolina State did not have a good game. I really like him. DJ Burns only had 4 points, but DJ Horn had 19 points. Their floor general Diarra had 11, and McConnell had 15. McConnell put in a big 15 points. He was kind of their X factor, in my opinion. He hit a couple big threes just to put the dagger in Marquette late in the second half. But I'm surprised about Burns only having 4 points because we thought he would dominate, and he did not. Kolek did his thing like we thought he would, but he had 17 points. But Cam Jones, their left-handed bandit, I always have a hard time stopping left-handed guys. He's their left-handed guy. It's hard to stop him. He had 20 points. He's a big-time NBA prospect. But, Marquette just did not shoot good from the field, especially from the three-point line. 4 out of 31 from the three-point line, 12.9%. That was a dagger. They shot 20 out of 60 for the game, 33.3%. So they were just cold all night long. NC State shot a lot better from them everywhere. So, NC State they got off early. Like I said, they jumped on early, never looked back. What do you got on this game, Dwayne?
Yeah. I mean, I share those same sentiments, Ken. I mean, it's just that when they jumped out to a nice lead at the start, and unfortunately Marquette just really didn't have no answer. Now I was just kind of disappointed that DJ Burns didn't have a dominant performance in terms of points, but it looks like he made up for that on the back end. And I was watching some of that game, and that man was tossing balls and dishing balls like you wouldn't believe. And I'm just like, man, the dude has 7 assists. For crying out loud. And I mean, and they weren't just pass and shoot type assists. I mean, he was just finding folks through crevices and everything else. So it was just like, man, you got a big man like him can score and pass the ball like he is. You thought he was Magic Johnson out there, man. This dude.
He's a good underdog because he's kind of big, looks a little bit out of shape, but he can really ball. He's a really good player. I like him.
Right. But I will say this, and I guess as an ACC fan and watching NC State and match up with Carolina, I really didn't know how good their team was in terms of recruitment and the transfer portal and players that they brought in from the transfer portal. I wasn't totally privy to all that. And from what I heard Keith say, he was just like, when they went on that, they I believe lost 4 in a row going into the conference tournament. And he was just like, we got the players, we just haven't put it together yet. But I guess they put it together. They showed you who they are and how they put it together during conference play. And they just pretty much ain't never looked back. I didn't really know how good they were. I didn't know how good some of the players or the player that they brought in from the transfer portal to mesh well. And that's what he was saying from what I was hearing. They just weren't meshing just yet. They were good, but they just weren't meshing. But now they meshed, and now it all came together for them at the right time, and it's showing. So, congratulations to NC State.
Yeah, they're looking good. What do you got, Brandon?
Yeah, Dwayne covered me on what I was going to say about Burns, man. I didn't know if I was watching DJ Burns or Magic Johnson. The players he was finding through traffic, some of the he would throw it behind the body just to these defenders through traffic. It was just, these passes were amazing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they got they really do have a great team that just plays together like a team. They all know their role. Burns can facilitate out of the post and he can score. And Horn's that guy that's going to isolate and get you his points that way. And they got some shooters on the outside, and Diarra just plays around the rim. And
I like him. He hustles, man.
Yep.
He's a hustler. Yeah, I love him.
Marquette's kind of played with fire, the way that they just kind of played a little bit lazy, I want to say. They just, round 1, they only played one half of basketball. Round 2, played a half of basketball. Colorado almost beat them. Marquette's a pretty good team, but I don't like that stat 4 for 31 from 3. I don't know why teams keep doing this, but
I don't know why they keep on shooting it. You got to go somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know why they do that either. I mean, obviously you don't want to miss a wide open one within the rhythm of the offense, but 4 out of 31, like, come on, you got to be taking some bad shots.
Yeah. And they were down trying to, come back from that. So
that might be some of it. Yeah, they had to jack some up because they were down big. Yeah, that might be one reason.
Yeah.
Basketball is like, you have a 30-second shot clock. You don't got to get in desperation mode and shoot 31 threes if you're not making them. Like you're going to get a lot of possessions, with a 30-second shot clock. You got to play some defense, and you got to get to the free throw line. Yeah, I got to start doing something different. That's just me. But, yeah, they shot way too many. Yeah, they shot way too many. Let's go on to the next game. Number 1, Purdue knocks off number 5 Gonzaga 80-68. I watched this game live. First half was amazing, very good game, back and forth the whole entire first half. Purdue's up 40-36 at halftime, but there was multiple scoring changes and ties in the first half. I mean, it was this back and forth. Each team was going on like these little 6, 7, 8-point runs against each other. I mean, it was just a crazy back and forth first half. Purdue in the second half dominated, though, especially with they took over the game with about 8 or 9 minutes to go. It was mostly a one-possession game until the 8 or 9 minute mark, where Gonzaga was hanging on, making these runs to get it down to 5 or 6 points. But then at the 8, 9 minute mark, Purdue just they put on the clamps, and they went off, and they got up to like a 15, 16, 17 point lead, and they never looked back. And they win the game by 12 points. Zach Edey did his thing, 27 points, 14 rebounds. But Braden Smith, my opinion, player of the game. I know that's Dwayne's guy. 14 points, but the biggest stat line is 15 assists.
15 assists.
Points, 15 assists. Lance Jones came out of nowhere. He's had a good season. He's the transfer, from Illinois State Salukis. He has 12 points. Most of them came in the first half. Lawyer, who I've been kind of dogging, but he had 10 points. He had a big second half. I think he only had 2 points at halftime, but he had a really big second half. So good on Lawyer. He's stepping up this year, because Dwayne alluded to it, saying, hey, it has to be more than Zach Edey and Braden Smith. And Lawyer and Lance Jones both, step up to score in double digits. They both have really good games, so they had third and fourth scoring. They needed it. This number 23 guy for Purdue also come off the bench. He's been on fire the past couple games. I haven't seen him all season long, but he's just been a March Madness guy where he's been hitting these big shots coming off the bench, so yeah, Purdue did what they needed to do. They got third and fourth scoring, and that's why they won this game. I can't pronounce his name for Gonzaga, but Ike he had 18 points, 10 rebounds. He was guarding Edey. He tried to do everything he could. He's pretty athletic, big man. He did his thing, but Zach Edey's just too dang big. But he can. But Ike didn't do bad, or Ike. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He had 18 points, 10 rebounds. It's not too shabby at all. Watson had 14. Hickman had 16. Nemhard had 14. But man, Purdue, two games in a row, they just shoot lights out over 50% from the field. 32 out of 56 for 57.1%. You're not going to lose too many games when you're shooting 57% from the field. 9 out of 20 from the three-point line, 45%. Very good. I think the game before, they were like 47% from the three-point line. So they're just shooting the ball really well. Gonzaga, the Zags, they didn't shoot bad at all. 29 out of 59 for the game, 49.2%. That's pretty darn good. They did struggle from 3 points, so only 6 out of 19, 31.6%. They didn't do good from the free throw line either. They only shot 7 free throws, 4 out of 7 for 57%. So they didn't get the free throw line. But anyways, Purdue did what they had to do. What do you got in this game, Dwayne?
I'll keep mine short and sweet and simple, brother. They like I said in the last show, third and fourth scoring is going to have to keep up with Gonzaga, because Gonzaga can put points on the board, and that's exactly what happened. Purdue finally looks like a whole different team outside that fundamental basketball team we just see that they are, and they're showing up a little bit different going down the stretch, and that's what's going to need to happen as they, they just may make it to the Final Four, but they're going to need it in this next game against Tennessee. So I mean, it's just, scoring matters. Zach Edey can't do it all by himself.
No.
And in college basketball, just having 2 scorers doesn't always make the difference. When you're playing these teams who know how to put points up on the board as well. So they're going to need that against Tennessee as well. And so they're going to have to step up a little bit more. But I'm very proud of what I saw. Like I said, in order to beat Gonzaga, they just matched their energy to what it was going to be, and they found third and fourth scoring. So, props to Purdue.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, exactly. What do you got, Brandon?
Yeah, I guess 3 things. Yeah, it's hard to beat a team when one guy has 15 assists. Purdue's getting hot at the right time, and Gonzaga lost because they play in the West Coast Conference. So,
I know you love giving them shade. I know you love giving them shade. So do I.
Love it.
I think they're a good team, but yeah, that West Coast Conference, I just can't get over that either, man. It's like, dude, you guys are playing against you're playing against San Francisco, man. Come on, man. Yeah. So they got to switch conferences, man, for real. Let's go into the next game. Oh my God, this is mine and Dwayne's game. Number 4 Duke upsets Houston. Number 1 Houston, 54-51. Very close though. What I saw watching just the highlights is Houston had big time scoring droughts. I mean, they jump off to a quick 8-0 lead. Looks like they just might run Duke out of the gym, and then it'll be the opposite where Dwayne will be dogging me out. I was like, oh man, the way the game started off, I was like, man, this Dwayne. Oh man, I'm gonna be hearing it from Dwayne here pretty soon. But then Duke kind of settled in. They got back into the game, and then Houston just couldn't score. It was I think it was 23-22 at halftime. Duke. I mean, very low scoring game. Yeah, name of the game was Houston just could not score. Shed did not have a good game, only 2 points. Sharp only had 7. He had 30 points the game before. LJ Cryer did have 15 points. He was our leading scorer, and Jay Roberts had 13 points. But Yeah, they just couldn't score for some reason. And Filipowski played well for Duke, 16 points. Jay Roach had a huge second half. He had no points at halftime, but 14 points in the second half. So he's finished with 14 points. And Proctor added 9, their Australian player, who's, I think, a sophomore this year. He played okay. But Roach had a huge second half. Yeah. I like Houston, but I don't know. They've lost in back-to-back Sweet 16s. They have a good team. They're always in the top 5, like Dwayne alluded to last show. They're a very good team. I still don't know what it is with them in the tournament. But they did make a Final Four a couple years ago, so props to them on that. Our guy, who's not on the show today, but he likes to throw shade at Houston more than I do, is Dave. But he's not on our show. He just says Kelvin Sampson is not a big game coach. I don't know whether that's true or not, but he does not like Kelvin Sampson. That's why I was hoping he would join our show today, because I know he would talk about that. He is not a Kelvin Sampson guy for some reason at all. But I like Houston. Houston can ball. I still don't know what their deal is in the tournament, but they lost the nail-biter game. It was close, man. They had their chances, man. It was just very low scoring. I'll pass it on to you, Dwayne. What's your takeaway on this game?
I really don't have much to say. You guys, if you watched it, I dozed off in the second half. I really on Texas time, I really couldn't keep up with it on a Friday night.
Yeah, you're 2 hours ahead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it was just the only hang up I always had about Houston. I wanted to give them their flowers being the number 1 because they deserved it and they earned it.
They did deserve it. Yeah,
right,
great season.
right. But my only hang up with them, if you look at their stats, their scoring, they don't really have a legit number 1 scorer on their team.
Yeah,
there's not one legit scorer on their team. Their scoring is sporadic. One day it could be Cryer, one day it could be Shed, one day it could be, somebody else. One day it could be somebody else. And they're always not in double-digit scoring either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they trust their defense to lock down and create the points for them. But it's just, and that's why I'm just like, I know bettors, they probably bettors go crazy with picking a player, with them, because there's just not one player you can pick that's maybe going to go over 12 points, over 13 points or 14 points, but there's just not one consistent scorer. Prior, he may average 14 points a game, but it really don't look like that on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
One game he'll probably score 8, another game he'll go 13, another game he'll go 6. So it's just that it's their scoring is so sporadic, and you can't do that to a team that's going to score. You may be able to lock them down defensively, but eventually teams got to start scoring. So.
Yep. What do you got, Brandon?
Yeah. Big thing about Jamal Shed, he had that right ankle injury. And he just like late in the first half. That
probably hurt him, yeah.
If he was there, I don't know. You can never really go off these what ifs, but not having one of your best players definitely hurts in the stretch. As far as Duke goes, Proctor and McCain, they're hitting big shots. Yeah. Filipowski, he played well. That's the best game I've seen him play. Usually I watch, he's okay, but he played. He really showed what the hype with him is all about. So he had a good game. Houston, they tend to fold, man. But yeah, not having your best player out there, that definitely hurts too. So unfortunately, Duke moves on.
I know you guys hate Duke.
I can't stand them.
I mean, you guys are NC fans, so that comes with the territory. I know.
Yeah.
There's another interesting stat that before we move on to the next game. Houston really struggled from a free throw line, probably cost them the game. They only went 9 out of 17 from a free throw line, 52.8%. That might have been a dagger in a very close game. Both teams didn't shoot well, obviously, for the game because it was very low scoring. They both shoot 40% from the field, so they were dead even. They both shot 40.8% from the field. They were both 20 out of 49. I mean, exactly the same. But Duke was better from a free throw line, 8 out of 12 versus 9 out of 17. And Duke made a couple more threes. But the free throw line really hurt Houston, it looks like. 9 out of 17 in a close game, that's just not going to get it done. They might win the game if they hit 70% of their free throws, 80% of their free throws, but we'll move on to the last game of the Sweet 16 before we get into our Elite Eight predictions. Number 3, Creighton loses to number 2, Tennessee, 82-75. Very good game, like we predicted. Creighton first half was back and forth, just like the Purdue, Gonzaga game was. Creighton's up 35-34 at halftime, but then Tennessee just has a really good second half. I mean, at the 16-minute mark in the second half, they just go on this huge run. They go all the way up by like 15, 16 points, and they just never really looked back at that point. But credit Creighton, they did get down to 3 points multiple times with about 4 or 5 minutes to go. So they were very much still in the game in the last 2 minutes. They made a huge run to get back in the game, Creighton, to get it down to 3 points. But Tennessee had the answers. They had so many points off of turnovers. Tennessee's defense is just unreal, man. Probably one of the best defensive teams left in the tournament. So yeah, Dalton Connect had a good game, like Dwayne predicted, 24 points, man. And I predicted Shireman to have a good game for Creighton. He did. He had 25 points. So they were the 2 leading scorers for both teams. But Tennessee's defense was just too much, and Dalton Connect was hitting timely shots, man. Every time Creighton would get back into the game and get it close, Dalton Connect just comes through, man. So what do you got on that game, Dwayne?
Really, I tried to keep up with it the best I could, but I'll just say this, man. If Dalton Connect goes over 20 plus points, 9 times out of 10, they have a good chance of winning that game. And he had 24, but the surprising thing about that game was Trey Alexander. Usually he averages somewhere around
he didn't do
18
much
points a game or something like that.
Yeah.
And he only had 13. Now
Yep.
they did try to get, Paul Brenner and everybody else involved, and they matched them. They matched blow for blow with them because, like I said, Creighton has not only 1, 2, and 3 scoring, they also have 4 scoring. But like I said, it just defense wins championships, man, and credit to the Volunteers, man.
Yeah, you're right about Alexander. He'd only have 13 points. Cogburn had 14. Ashworth had 16 or 4 score. Yeah, so yeah, they had scoring all over the place, but Alexander was the big standout, only 13 points. Yeah, you're right. He usually plays better. What do you got in this game, Brandon?
Yeah, Tennessee's defense really good, and like y'all said, Dalton Connect, man, that guy can play. Really good player. Yeah, Creighton, they were down by 15. They got down pretty big by double digits, and they just
early in the second half.
Yeah,
Tennessee went off. Yeah, they go on a huge run, with 15, like early in the second half. Yeah, they went crazy.
Yeah. Creighton hit their threes, and they brought it back the deficit. But man, yeah, no, that's Tennessee's pretty tough. I'm looking forward to that next game they got with Purdue.
Yeah, it's gonna be a showdown. That's gonna. I'm not a Tennessee fan, but this is another storyline. This is only their second Elite Eight in their history. Their first one was with Bruce Pearl, I think, in 2010, and this is their second Elite Eight because they've had tournament problems, like well-documented tournament issues for a long time. They've never made a Final Four yet, but maybe this year they will. Yeah, they just have a lot of tournament problems for some reason, but this year they've answered the call, so good on them for that. Let's get into some predictions. I forgot to write some of these games down, but let me look at my phone. I knew I was forgetting something here, but let me go get my phone on and games for later on today. All right. Illinois versus UConn is the first game today. God, that's gonna be a good game, but I don't think Illinois is a surprise team this year. I think UConn's going to advance, so I think they're too strong. UConn won't be challenged until the Final Four, in my opinion. But you never know. Illinois has got Shannon. It is March Madness. Anything can happen. But I think UConn's just got too much balanced scoring. And like Dwayne was alluding to, we don't know who the third scorer is going to be for Illinois. We know Shannon's going to do his thing. Hawkins might be okay, but will Domask and some other guys, step up for Illinois? That's the question. But I got UConn. They got too much. They got too many guys that can score. They play good defense also. They can lock you up. They're well coached by Hurley, the older Hurley brother. Yeah, they have a good thing. They're on a good run right now. What do you got in this game, Dwayne?
I got UConn in my bracket, so I'm gonna stick with them. I believe they have way too much. And for Illinois to have a chance, they're gonna need to have third, fourth, fifth scoring, or Shannon's gonna have to put up 30 plus to at least keep it relevant and close for them to have a chance towards the end. So I got UConn squeaking it out and pulling out the win.
What do you got, Brandon?
Yeah, I got UConn. They're just too good. I can't bet against them right now.
Nope.
Next game, number 4 Alabama versus number 6 Clemson is the second Elite Eight game today. Obviously, Alabama comes off a huge win. Will they have a letdown? Clemson does have a three-headed monster that we talked about. They found their third score. This is a very intriguing game. I think it can go either way. I don't know. I have a hard time choosing this one. I'm gonna go Alabama though, because they could just score a lot of points, man. They're a very high scoring team. So I'll go Alabama, but I really have a hard time choosing this one. I think this is a 50-50 game. It can lean either way, but I'll take Alabama. What do you got, Dwayne?
I got Alabama as well. The way they played against Carolina, I mean, it's their shooters are gonna, Sears is gonna have to have 20 plus points. And Nelson's gonna have to have the game he has had, against Carolina. If he doesn't, I think keep it close and competitive. But if those shooters get going, it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
So I got Alabama going in.
What do you got, Brandon?
This is a tough game.
Very tough.
I feel like if Alabama plays defense the way that they did against Carolina, that's going to be the key. I can see them doubling up on PJ Hall, and the issue with that is you got some more consistent shooters for Clemson from three. So I think Bama squeaks out in a close game. They can just score so much. They got a lot of firepower, and I think Clemson's going to have issues with that.
Yeah, I agree. Tomorrow's games, number 1 Purdue versus number 2 Tennessee. This is going to be a good game. Both teams got good defenses, especially number 2 Tennessee, but Purdue is pretty solid in defense also. They're a traditional Big Ten team, and they're usually good at defense. They're old school. Gosh, this is going to be a good game, man. This is going to be another nail biter. Obviously, Tennessee has more scores, but I think Tennessee has more consistent scoring. But I'm just not going to go against Purdue right now. Purdue is kind of – they finally answered the call this year, like Dwayne said. I could be wrong, but I'll stick with Purdue because I go against them, but they just seem like they got it going on this year. I expect Purdue will win, but like Dwayne said, they need to find some more scoring though. That they got to continue to have these other scorers besides, Zach Edey and Braden Smith. If they can, if Lawyer can still keep on stepping up, and Kaufman, Wren, their other big man, all these other guys that have been doing well, Lance Jones, and they have a chance. It's gonna, and they can't turn the ball over against Tennessee. If they turn the ball over against Tennessee, Tennessee will win. Purdue's got to keep their turnovers down, but I'll still pick Purdue. I think they're fundamentally sound. I won't go against them, so I got Purdue, but that's a really tough game. What do you got, Dwayne?
I got Purdue. I mean, I got them in my Final Four, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with it. I think they ramped up their scoring paralysis at the right time. And they're not with that, just keeping it simple. You gotta score. You gotta put points up on the board with the teams you're gonna come and play to. Now, I will make a prediction for it to be close. Zach Edey is gonna have to have 30 plus points.
Yep.
And Dalton Knecht is gonna have to have 30 plus points. And
I agree.
So if those two can have 30 burgers, then
yeah.
Then it's about to be a game, man.
Yeah, it should be a game. Yeah, you're right. What do you got, Brandon?
And along with that, Braden Smith's going to have 20 assists. So
What is this, right?
uh, I'm, this is going to be the best game. This is going to be so close.
Yeah.
I just am I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think Tennessee upsets them. I wouldn't even call it an upset. It's a 1 and a 2 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Tennessee pulls this one out. Just Purdue's style of basketball is going to make it close. Tennessee's defense is going to counter that, but Tennessee's just better in transition.
They are.
And that's how they beat Creighton. Dalton connects so good, man. That guy can shoot. Purdue's really gonna focus in on him, but I feel like Tennessee can just kind of get some others where they can get a few other guys to put in like 10, 12, 14.
Yeah, they do. They have more scoring. They do.
I'm really feeling like Purdue's just not gonna be able to get by. I'm gonna go with Tennessee on this one. I just got.
No, you could be right. This is very close. Tennessee might make their first Final Four ever. It's going to be.
I'm just saying, I won't be shocked if Tennessee wins.
No,
I just won't be.
We might have an overtime game here or some kind of buzzer beater. Yeah, this probably is the best matchup in the Elite Eight. I agree with you, Brandon. This is a very good matchup. Next game, NC State versus Duke. Can NC State keep their Cinderella run going? I want them to. I know you guys do because you guys hate Duke, but I will say yes. NC State will make the Final Four. They just seem to be the team this year, and I think they're going to get in. And they got scoring all the way around. They have, they got their big man Burns looking like Magic Johnson. They got the other DJ guy scoring. Like they have scored all over the place. They got Diarra. This McConnell guy has stepped up big, hitting big 3-point shots. I mean, yeah, I got NC State winning. Duke is very good, obviously being a 4 seed. They're the favorites, but NC State is just on fire right now, and I think they will keep that going. What do you got, Dwayne?
Man, I'm going NC State as well. I mean, I'm on the bandwagon as far as the tournament is concerned. I mean, they really have put it together, and they ain't looked back since the conference tournament. So they got the hotter hand right now. I mean, now credit to Duke. And because my cousin, she stays in Raleigh, man, and I know I'm going to hear from her because she's such a Duke fan. Golly, but I mean, their guards are coming in at the right time. McCain and everybody's coming in at the right time. So I mean, it's going to be a good game, and they know each other. It's an ACC thing, and nobody wouldn't understand. It's a Carolina thing. So so this is they. Keith's got them boys playing. I just have them edging Duke, but they know each other so well. So
yeah, they do.
This is going to be another close game. But I like NC State putting up points the way they have. So,
yep, I'm with you. They know each other.
I just don't like Duke. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put it out there. I can't stand them jokers.
Well, I know you guys can't. If you're North Carolina fans, I know you guys don't like Duke. What do you got, Brandon?
North Carolina fans also don't like State, but we hate Duke.
But we hate Duke.
You guys hate Duke more, I know. Duke's kind of like a little preppy school, Christian Laettner, the whole 30-30 for thing. Yeah, I know all about that, man.
Stripping, dirty basketball.
Yeah.
There's a history. But yeah, I also have State. These are two teams that know each other. And they've already played each other 3 times this season. It's hard to go against Duke right now because Filipowski looks comfortable. Proctor and McCain are hitting their shots, and Mitchell is playing the role he's played all season as the gritty guy that can score from anywhere on the court. It's hard to go against Duke with this game, but the way that State's been playing, they look comfortable. They look rested that last game. Mm-hmm. They look like they're having fun, and everybody knows their role, and they are playing selfless basketball. So I think it's going to be really difficult for them to guard Burns. And if Horn plays aggressive, and Diarra is obviously going to play aggressive and get his rebounds, but
He's their X factor. Yeah, DR is
yeah.
a man. Yeah.
Middlebrook needs to have a big game. I need Middlebrook to put up at least 15, and I need Horn to put up his 15. And I feel like with that happening alone, just those two, State's going to pull this one out and win. So yeah, State's got to step up from some of the other guys like Middlebrook, and everyone else just play their role. And I feel like State's going to win this one in a close game.
Yeah, I think McConnell's the guy too. Like I mentioned, McConnell's been really shooting lights out from 3-point line. He's another X factor. McConnell keeps on shooting the way he does. I think NC State will pull this off. He's been very timely, big shots. All right, gentlemen. That's it for our picks. So in closing, we'll be back for the Final Four. We'll have a week off, so we'll come back either Friday or Saturday and do our Final Four show. We should have more people back. Dwayne, Monty, and maybe Dave will finally get back on this thing. He did one show with us, I think, for the second round. So hopefully Dave comes back. Still didn't hear from him. Not knowing what's going on with him. He hasn't texted me at all. So he just fell off the map. But anyways, it was a great show. Let us know your picks. Who's your Final Four? Who you guys got winning these Elite Eight games? It's very intriguing because a lot of teams haven't made it to the Final Four, like Tennessee and NC State. So there could be some first times for teams getting to the Final Four. So it's going to be very interesting. Do you guys got anything in closing, gentlemen?
Nope. It should be interesting. That's all I'll say. It should be interesting as we get down to the Elite Eight. I mean, this is where this is where TV networks make their money.
Yeah, I agree.
This is where it gets interesting. This is where the close games happen. So
yeah, this is when it gets really emotional. When you get bounced out at this stage, I think it's very heartbreaking because you're almost there, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's gonna be very emotional for the teams who win and the team who loses. So, all right, gentlemen, thanks for joining. We'll sign off and we'll see you next time, brothers.
All right. Have a